You and I were talking on the group chat last night, as we do every single day, literally every single day of our lives. We talk to each other. That is not a bad thing for me. Probably is for you. Understandable. We were talking about something and you were like, hey, we should hop on tomorrow and we should record an episode on this topic because I think it's valuable. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I mean, it just occurred to me like what we're doing here is we're trying to put information out for people that are thinking about joining, right? Like that's like our base. What we're doing. We do a lot of other things. We're the official and unofficial podcast of the Air Force. And you got me thinking, like I'm on the internet. I see the memes. I see all the thrash. I'm aware of the geopolitical greater news sphere. I try not to pay too much attention, but it's hard to ignore it. And with everything going on, the question is the Air Force worth saving? And it just kind of popped into my head. And I'm going to throw this back at you real quick because that's what I do. If you were 18 years old today, like, would you join the Air Force?
I can't imagine how hard it would be for me to sift through misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, the pressure of the zeitgeist. I'd have a whole peer group that have all of these other things out here. Like, no time in history do you simultaneously have every piece of information that you need. And then at the exact same time, you have every single piece of crappy garbage take information that you absolutely don't need and you should be shielded from, right? Like, it used to be this thing where, when we were growing up, and this is going to be a lot of us talking about, the generational divide between us and our average listener. But when we were growing up, man, like you figured those crappy things out about the military, very slow increments, right? Like your recruiter didn't tell you, hey, when you in process at BMT, you're going to be part of this rainbow flight. You're going to be wearing different clothes. You're going to get this stupid haircut. But even then, like, the process really isn't that ironed out. So you might get clothes in like a couple days. You might have a uniform, or it might be like 3 days and you'll just be like walking around in the same pair of jeans you had on when you shipped out. But you got that in a slow drip, right? And then you got like the chance to like bitch about it with your friends and sit in that and things and be like, oh man, this other flight, they got theirs in like a day. Like, their drill instructor had them ready to go a day after they got there. But if you use that and you extrapolate it over an entire career, right? When you get to airborne school, if it wasn't for us telling people this, like, that's like a kind of like a down low sort of thing. It's like, you're going to get there and you're going to show up 6 hours early and you're going to stand on some wires and throw rocks at helmets. Right.
Yep.
We didn't know that till we got to airborne school. I didn't know that was a thing until I showed up at airborne school. And I was like, what are we doing? And they're like, oh no, this is how the Army does it, dude. You got to show up, 45 minutes early for your team leader, 45 minutes early for your platoon leader, 10 minutes early for him to make sure that you're here. And you're like, but that's 3 hours early. What are we doing?
Well, the processing speeds,
Right, yeah, exactly. And they were like, well, no, that's just how it is. You didn't know that back in the day. And now that piece of information is readily available, and some 17-year-old high school senior is making fun of that the same way that we are. And we're like, hold on, you haven't even decided to get in yet. And you're telling me that you don't want to, we make the joke with folks that are like, I don't know if I want to be, in the CIA or if I want to be a surgeon. I'm thinking about getting in. I'm just going to do PJ for like one enlistment, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to, I'll work at one of the tier 1 units. And then once I'm ready to go, I want to go work at Ground Branch. And you're like,
I would never work with this tier 1 unit because I hear that they're garbage.
Right. But that's the byproduct of kind of what it is that we're talking about, right? And it's hard for us, it's hard to get to the kernel of the question, which is, what's real, what isn't, and is this thing worth saving? And more importantly, is this thing worth devoting your entire life to? Because that really is the question that I don't want to poo-poo here is, you may only be 17 or 18 years old. We say it all the time. Like, of course, I have nothing against anybody that does one enlistment and gets out. There's a ton of people that I've known that, no kidding, got in. It took them 2 years to be a PJ. They served 4 more years because they had a 6-year contract. And they were like, okay, tight, I did that. I'm going to move on with my life. I have no animosity towards them.
I do.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second.